Welcome to episode 214 of the Necronama.com. I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of the podcast you're listening to right now. And when I was a kid, you only lasted one night at Freddy's, and then he stabbed you with his claw.
And I'm Don Guillory, author, historian, educator, co-host of the podcast that you're listening to. And I got to tell you, watching this movie wasn't too scary because last time I was at Phoenix Fan Fusion, there were much scarier bears in the audience.
Jesus.
All right. Hi, I'm Mr. Creepypasta. I'm a YouTuber. I tell scary stories online. And for 2 years, Five Nights at Freddy was literally how I fed my family.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and YouTube's wild, especially when it comes down to Five Nights at Freddy's.
Everything with Five Nights is wild. Like, Don just mentioned Fan Fusion in passing, but like we were at a panel this year and I seriously thought like these teenagers were going to kill each other over seats. And I'm just going to start this episode by saying I have never played the game, but no, I was sincerely, I've known it's a huge game. I've known, that it had a following, but it was the first time I saw like the rabid fans and it was so cool. And I'll never have that with my stuff, but I wish I did.
You mentioned that, James. I didn't know how serious the Five Nights at Freddy's stuff was until my kid got into it. You informed me of what it was because I can't remember if it was Salt Lake FanX or we happened to be at Phoenix Comic-Con Fan Fusion, whatever it happened to be named at the time. And I was like, what the hell
Phoenix
is
Plus
this? What are these bear things that these things that look like Chuck E. Cheese or Showbiz Pizza? And he's like, oh, it's Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm like, oh, is it a show? You informed me that it was a video game, but I'm like, it's not my wheelhouse. So but my kid got into it and I know some of the lore, but I didn't realize how deep it is and how defensive people are about that. And it's great to see that kids in gaming and in pop culture and stuff have their things that they can find and the communities that they can find with that. Even if they do try to kill each other over chairs.
That's just internet culture these days. If you like something, you have to love it so much you're willing to murder over it. You know what I'm saying?
And you have to decide the first time you see it. Like you have to know that you're willing to die for this now, or it was the single worst thing that was ever made, and everyone who likes it should be set on fire. Those are your only two choices.
And it ruined your childhood.
I agree so hard. No, dude, I would say one of my friends had made a TikTok recently that I just like have lived by so much, and that was just let things be mid. Like at a certain point, like, the definition of like mid went from like being just okay to being like the absolute worst. If it's not the best, it's just trash. And
right.
I hate that so much now, man. I want to let things be mid. It's okay to be mid.
I love that. I kind of want a shirt that says that.
Well, I mean, apparently all the dude bros online say that Margot Robbie is mid, and I'm okay with that. If that's that's I take that as a compliment because I mean anything that is mid is good.
Yeah, it's good. It's okay. No, it's not bad. Speaking of not bad, this is a movie.
Yeah. No. First, just kind of give me a little rundown. Like, when did you first play this, or like how involved have you been with Five Nights throughout? I know you're way more of a gamer than I'll ever be, and that kind of stuff. So, just like, what was your experience with it?
Five Nights at Freddy's was I think I tried it when it first came out. I want to say like on launch, it was one of the games that I ended up getting, and it became like this huge like YouTube phenomenon, right? Like if you were doing YouTube when that game came out, then like you had to do something Five Nights at Freddy's. A lot of my other friends who work in like horror on YouTube at the time were doing music. They had to do Five Nights at Freddy's. They had to do, if you were playing games, you had to play Five Nights at Freddy's. If you were doing content like I was, telling stories and things like that, we rewrote up audio dramas and stuff based on like Five Nights at Freddy's lore, and we put it up in like, it's not accurate anymore, but these are all like things that were like lore that you were guessing at, because the games are very ambiguous when it comes down to like telling the story that's in there. It wasn't until like more recently that you get like a lot more really concrete stuff from the video games, like real storytelling from the video games. So at the time, like it was, I don't know, it was wild seeing everybody like make guesses, make theories, and things like that to try and determine what's going on in Five Nights at Freddy's. And I mean, the creator also put it out like really quickly, like enough to keep up with its own fandom's hype. So for like it was a joke, but also for 2 years, like Five Nights at Freddy's was like everyone's paycheck on YouTube. Like everybody was just doing Five Nights at Freddy's things because it just got clicks. That is what audiences wanted to see. That's what kids wanted to see. So, yeah, that's my experience with it.
No, that's really cool. And I kind of like, I'm no expert here either, but like that sounds very similar to how creepypastas took off. Like you have this sort of established thing, but there's still so much ambiguity. Everybody was able to make their own stories, and it grew and grew, and then certain things became more locked down. So that's kind of cool in itself.
Yeah, early internet, man. Like nobody had to tell details about anything. It's always just give the smallest amount of information and let everybody else figure it out on their own.
Damn it, I was writing at the wrong time.
But
all right.
Well, I was going to say, with the parallel between what you were doing, Spike, as far as any of the stuff with creepypasta or the gaming, you have these moments where, because you leave details out with those stories, or was leaving details out, you get the viewers or listeners to use their imagination a lot more to fill in any of those gaps. Oh, yeah. And I noticed the same thing when my daughter was playing the games, because I would sit and watch her, and then I watched the streamers play, because I was like, okay, well, I love gaming. I want to see what this is about. And she wants to know as much as possible so she can answer those questions. But even the stuff that is not fully fleshed out, it still makes sense. Because you can fill in those gaps as far as with what you basically know about the source material or all the lore, or even when it comes to any types of scary stories. We've heard enough scary stories to where if something is missing, it's not going to affect the story to where we don't enjoy it. Oh, yeah. And I think that was kind of one of the good things about this movie, at least from me taking it away, as far as somebody who wasn't that well exposed to it. And they didn't necessarily have to explain everything in a way to where it's like, we need to dumb it down for a general audience so you guys know what the hell is going on here. But we don't want to be disrespectful enough, too disrespectful to the fans, to where we're over explaining things and quote unquote wasting that time and getting into the backstory. Whereas my kid, when she was watching it, she's telling me stuff. She's like, oh, that's the yellow bunny. That's William Often. I'm like, you're spoiling the movie for me. I don't know what's going on. But even then, I was waiting, because when we discussed The Blackening this past summer, James was upset, or I shouldn't say upset. He disliked the amount of time that was given by the antagonist as far as why he was doing what he was doing. And it needed to be done for that movie, because there were a lot of cultural and social significance, historical significance that need to be at play for an audience that wouldn't get why he was doing it. Whereas this one, you don't need, even as somebody who is coming into Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie, with no knowledge about the video game, no knowledge about the fandom or anything like that, you come into it and you immediately understand, like, oh shit, this is a bad guy. He was killing kids, and oh, okay, all right. That makes sense for a horror movie. I got it.
See, one thing I loved about that was that, like, there's like a certain level of simplicity that you can just accept with like that too. Like, there's no, if there's a guy who killed kids, we've already established this is a bad person. We don't have to go any further. I don't need to know his motivations for why he killed a kid. Honestly, like, he kills a kid, I'm like, I don't like this guy. Yep. I'm ready to see him get killed off.
Unless you meet the kid, then you're right. I get it.
I mean, like, I wasn't super like, so I had to know Five Nights at Freddy's stuff for like my job, but like when it came down to it, like I fell out of it like after the third game, and now there's like 6, 7, something like that. and I don't know that deep of like the lore. I like stuff you were telling me before we started recording. We're like, that your kid noticed. I would not have known that. Like, oh yeah, Afton had 2 sons and a daughter or something like that. Like knows his entire family structure. Like, man, that's way over my head.
James,
I know. I definitely don't know it. Yeah, I was going to do what? I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm saying you were going to ask a question. I started and
Oh, I just was gonna just jump into the movie, but I was thinking since then. I feel like all 3 of us had a very different experience watching this. I watched it on Peacock at home alone. Right. My plan is to go to the theater this weekend, like when it's full of fans, and watch them instead of the movie, because I think it'll be insane to see their reactions. And so I wanted to watch it where I could fully concentrate to do this episode. So I watched it there. But I know, Mr. Creepypasta, you went to a special showing, and I can't wait to hear about that. Don, did you go with just your daughter, or did you watch it at home?
No, we watched it on Peacock. We are our plan, because I don't know where this kid gets this, but my idea was, we're going to watch it on Peacock and, get some pizza. Her immediate thing was, oh my God, that fits in with the theme of Five Nights at Freddy's, because it was a pizza place. And they did, as soon as she walked in the door, she saw the pizza box and then immediately took a pen and drew out the Freddy Fazbear's logo. And I was like, you've got to be kidding. Like, so when you bring up that there are going to be other kids, I mean, going to a movie theater where it's full of kids, families, I can only imagine how that energy is going to be. And unfortunately, I'm not in a place where, you're going to have a huge collection of kids that are going to go to the movies, but I'm jealous of you.
Oh man, I got to send you one of these then. If you was that wild about just like drawing on the box. So I have a bunch of these. Like I stole a bunch from the theater when we left. But I went to like this fan screening of it in Austin. It was really cool because some of the folks from the game studio that does Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, they're a couple of friends of mine, and they invited me to go along with them. So I went along with them to go to this showing. I didn't even know about it. But when we got there, they gave us a bunch of like little, I guess, like gifts at like the tables where you go to, or the chairs we're at. And one of them is a full-size Five Nights at Freddy's pizza box. Like they have the pizza box, and inside of it was like a little like Freddy's hat, bow tie, and like little stuffed animal.
Oh wow!
If you want, I'll send you. I stole a whole bunch of those pizza boxes. So if you want a pizza box, I'll send you.
Hey, I'll reimburse you for postage.
But
you just made Don into a superhero. Good job.
But I mean, they're real cute. They're real like they're full on pizza boxes, and the showing was really cute too. I really like strongly encourage you guys to go see it in a movie theater, because there's like a real, I don't know. I feel like that going to see it at a theater where, one, there's kids at, and two, there's other people who don't like, they make their entire living working in horror like we do. It really puts in perspective like what the film is targeting. Because like for one, like every kid in the theater that we were at was just excited, losing their mind as soon as like any animatronic shows up on screen, right? Like to the point where like ushers are asking them like keep it down because they're getting too rowdy about it. But also like things that are like jump scares, things that are considered to be scares that don't hit me. If I was watching at home, watching with my friends, we'd be like, oh neat, we wouldn't react to it at all. But you see that full theater jump, like you realize like, oh okay, that would have hit. Like if I wasn't doing this for 12 years, that would have hit, man. And that's I feel like it really puts in perspective like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't like a super scary movie because I see scary movies all the time, but like that might have been a really like hit point for the kids that are wanting to see this movie. I don't use that. I can say spoiler stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I hate to do that otherwise. But if
anyone has a problem with spoilers, pause now and go watch it. All right, go for it.
But you know the kill I'm gonna refer to because there's only a few of them in the movie. There's not like a whole bunch. But there's that one kill where the chick gets cut bit in half.
Yeah.
Which I think is
good.
like it's really good. I was thinking like that was like the one good one from the movie. I was like, oh yeah, that one's like they're going after like a Fangoria award or something for like best kill kind of thing, you know. But then like apparently like everybody was jumping and like getting real into it on when Foxy like charges that guy at the back door, when the cupcake mauled the guy in the face, like everybody was eating those kinds of kills up too. But those don't really sell for me.
I feel like I've been thinking about this a lot since Saw X came out. I'm a huge Saw fanatic, and I went to X, and I literally, if you watched me watch that movie, you would think I was bored out of my fucking mind because I did not react to anything, even though I really enjoyed it, and it's not my favorite, but you know, just there's so much stuff that I'm so used to it. I'm like, oh, this is what's gonna happen. You know, cool, it worked. And I've really started to notice as I'm watching movies, I'm talking to my son who's 18 and he's starting to get into this stuff. And he's like, you know, oh man, this kill over here. And I'm like, oh, that barely works for me anymore. So I've really been paying attention to that. And I did notice it with Freddy's, especially the kill you talked about. I thought it was going to be her head, you know, so I'm totally prepared for her head. And as soon as it was half the body instead, this little shift, all of a sudden it's great to me. And I thought that was so odd. It's just exceeding my expectation. That's it. It's just throw me something I'm not quite ready for. And
it was almost I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I don't know where the fuck I'm going with this.
Well, I was going to say it's also the minimalism with it, right? The idea that you're wanting to see it, and you know that if you see it, it's going to be really disturbing. But just the idea, that shadow, that silhouette that's playing, you know, that's demonstrating this kill, that's enough to where you're like, I've got a minimal idea of what, you know, as far as a visual idea of what took place, but I can reconstruct or construct it in my mind, kind of like what we're talking about with having the minimalism, having some of those details left out to where it still works. Because I think we're all, well, I guess James, you had a different kill that I guess you wanted more out of, but I think we're all in consensus here that this is our favorite kill. Oh, yeah. My kid though, she enjoyed, I think a close second for me would be the cupcake or Mr. Cupcake's kill. But she loved it because she started laughing. And mind you, she is doing her best to enjoy the movie without ruining stuff for me, because I don't know what any of them can do. And she just, oh, they're going in order. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, it's gonna be Chica first. Chica is gonna get somebody first. I'm like, how do you know? It's the way the game goes. And she's probably got oh, there's Mr. Cupcake. And she just laughs. She's like, you can't run from Mr. Cupcake. I'm like, what the hell, kid?
That's so awesome.
I'm sleeping with the lights on and my door's locked now because I don't know what I've created. But I mean, that for an adult, we're looking at those scenes one way, or at least as horror people, we're looking at those scenes one way. Kids, using my kid as an example, and some of her friends who are into this, they look at it as, I get to see the thing I love playing represented on the big screen.
Oh yeah.
You know, kind of like Super Mario Brothers earlier this past year, or I mean, for us in the 80s and the 90s, you had Rampage, and then they had, you know, the Rampage movie with The Rock. But I mean, this one, at least
mine was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What was that? 1990? Like that was me. I was
a cartoon movie though.
But I'm saying like getting to see that on the screen, right. That was my moment. That's what I expect at the theater when I go see this. I want to see these have that moment that I had with Turtles.
Okay. Yeah. I gotcha. But yeah, so many video games have not done the source material justice. Mortal Kombat, Super Mario Brothers.
Wait, which Mortal Kombat you talking about?
The first one was fun, but when you go back and watch, you're like, good God, they really they did a horrible job with my boy Scorpion. Like, you barely any screen time.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I feel
And Johnny
it.
Cage gets killed off. You know? But anyway, the reboot that
try
they
being
did,
a Final Fantasy fan, my friend.
No,
Oh, God.
it's true. Very true.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Spirits Within, you were not a fan?
They cannot fucking make a Final Fantasy movie to save their lives. Anyway,
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, but it's so great to see something that has been done so well to have a video game franchise, right?
Yeah.
It's done so well in that world to now it roughly, I mean, I would honestly say a quick turnaround from being a popular video game to a movie to where it's very close to the source material, but there's stuff that can be changed in order to, I don't know, just to make it cinematic.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do anything against the movie. I'm sorry, it doesn't do anything against the lore. And you still have the room to add all that other stuff to it. My kid has the entire, like the encyclopedia, and I think it's like 400 pages of the Five Nights at Freddy's characters.
oh
I
wow,
didn't even know there was
And
400 pages worth of Five Nights at Freddy's characters.
Oh, there are a lot of characters, and it blows my mind. I mean, being creative people, but it always blows my mind when you get around other creative people that create a world, like a world in which their characters live, their characters develop, grow, and then you have people that enjoy that world and want to get into that world. I mean, definitely don't want to find themselves at a Freddy Fazbear's, but all right, I got to ask this question because we're getting into the movie, right? The whole idea of Mike's character being down on his luck, right? He's dealing with all this trauma. He lashes out. He can't keep a job. And it seems as though, because they don't really address this, or at least maybe I missed it in between my daughter's jokes, but they don't address how long the parents have been dead, do they?
No, I don't believe
okay.
so.
Because I'm getting the sense that he has been, I guess, oh God, I hate to use, like his parents were a safety net. Like he would get in trouble and they would help him out. And it's almost clear, like, when they trusted him enough to take his sister in, but he can't get over that trauma from his childhood. So you see it affecting him in keeping some form of steady employment, which then results in him taking this job, which Matthew Lillard's character even tells him, really crappy pay, worse hours, because it's at night.
Yeah.
And you immediately think about what you would do in that situation. And my question to either one of you is there a job that you accepted because you had like no other choice, or you had few choices, if you're willing to talk about it, because there might be some confidentiality things going on as far as,
yeah,
where you worked and who you worked with, and those folks not wanting to know that they were the people that suck.
that's every job I've ever had. No. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've had some. I worked in mental health a lot. Like psych hospitals and group homes and different stuff like that. And I took a couple like on more like lockdown units and more dangerous places just because it paid more. And, then occasionally you get your head rocked, or you get somebody trying to stab you, fun stuff like that. And,
normal Tuesday.
Yeah. And I look back on that and I'm like, now there's no way in hell that a few extra bucks an hour would do that. But yeah, back then, definitely.
I have worked terrible jobs before, but none that I have I guess, yeah, when I was in college, I took like my AT&T jobs and stuff were things that I just had to do. But no, I don't think I was ever like trapped in a crazy job like that, that I would have done anything to get out of, kind of thing. But I didn't just leave.
Yeah. Would either of you taken this job?
No.
Oh, absolutely.
What? Are you kidding?
Okay. I don't know that these things are alive, right? So I'm looking at this as I don't have to interact with anybody. I get to just go hang out there at night. Like I'm probably like, today I'd be bringing my Nintendo Switch and, some loudspeakers and I'm just hanging out getting paid. Like it doesn't sound bad on the surface to me. I mean, the hours seem bad for him, but outside of that, on paper, this doesn't seem like a bad job.
Okay.
I guess that's true. Also, like you do bring up something that I'm kind of curious about. What year does this film take place in? Because you said like if
in the 90s.
Does it take place in the 90s?
It looks as though it's the 90s because when, especially when the cab driver shows up, he's listening to Brandy, and that song was like in the late 90s when it came out, and it seems even with all the technology that everybody has, because there's never a cell phone.
There's two. But
there is.
Like old flip phone.
Is there a smartphone though? I mean, I'm sorry.
No.
There's not a smartphone.
Yeah.
So I never see that. So I'm thinking like late 90s maybe. Because it doesn't strike me as, it's in the 21st century. It seems more as though it's the 20th, especially that hospital scene where I'm looking at the equipment. I'm like, this looks old. So I'm not sure if this is the 90s or early 2000s, but it's obviously not the 80s. But even then, the state of Freddy Fazbear's restaurant, the pizzeria thing, it doesn't seem as though it's been closed for decades to where, even when you did have security people there, it doesn't seem run down. If that makes sense.
I just Googled it, and Screen Rant says that the movie takes place in the early 2000s.
Okay.
And I guess that makes sense. I hadn't even thought about what year it takes place in. So
they just kind of like in the beginning, it shows him listening to a cassette player, which I'm like, okay.
Right. Yeah.
And that was like, so this is either he's listening to something specifically from that point in time from his childhood, or, it's got to be the 80s. But like, because I know the back lore, we know that Freddy shut down in 1987 when the first kid was killed in like public. So like it's been closed since 1987. So it couldn't have been that long. But yeah, the interior is still functioning. All the video games work for some reason in the movie.
Yeah, right.
Power them on. So
there's been no kids to destroy them, so they're still working fine. Well, and I guess he also knows how to use the VHS tape. So
true.
My son would probably stare at that like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah. My kid will look at it like, "This is a big save button." I'm like, because I think that's like I think they use like the VHS tape as like the save button in that, if I remember correctly, because I haven't watched her play in a while. But yeah, well, James, let me ask you this question. Did Mike's longing for Nebraska scare you?
I knew this was coming up. Dude, okay.
As soon as I saw Nebraska, I'm like, this is going to be the scariest thing in the movie to James.
I literally, I saw it and I went, God damn it, instantly. Yeah, I just went back home last week, and so when this popped up, I was just like, no, I actually really like its use in this, because when you hit something like children being abducted, that sort of thing, I always come back to the scariest thing being that it can happen anywhere, right?
Right.
Like a terrorist attack on New York City scared the shit out of all of us. A terrorist attack in like no-name Nebraska would scare the fuck out of me, because that means you can get anywhere. Okay. So it's kind of that same level for me. Like, using Nebraska is funny because I make fun of it all the time. But in this situation, it's also just that feeling of, this is supposed to be the safe area. Things like this don't happen here, So I thought it was just a nice little touch. I liked how completely generic it was and how it didn't look like Nebraska at all. But overall, I thought it was really interesting on a psychological level that he insists on decorating with these things to try to get to this dream every night. I thought the use of constantly bringing it with you and just that exploration of trying to fix your own trauma. He doesn't seem like he's got a therapist. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't seem like he's working with anybody else on this. He's just, I can do this. I got to fix this. I have this guilt. It's all me. And I thought it was such a cool physical representation. So while I know you brought this up to make fun of it, I really do think it's like just a very interesting way to dive into his need to do everything himself.
Wow. You took a lot more out of that than I was thinking, man. That's just...
I spend a lot of time thinking about people that miss Nebraska and what's wrong with them. So,
well, I was going to say that when it comes to the way that he's dealing with his trauma, that was, I would say, it was a pretty common way to deal with it, right? And you're talking about it takes place in his childhood. Parents didn't address it, or at least maybe have tried to address it, but addressed it in their own way. He gets to adulthood. He's never really adjusted to, what is taking place. He's never really had a chance to process it fully. So as you point out, he's trying to process it in his own way. Like just the reading of the book, the whole idea of going into your dreams and being able to look for any of those details, being able to figure out some way to fix whatever was there. Like it was his responsibility. That was what really got me, was he was a kid when this happened, and he felt that it was his responsibility. It was his fault, at least from the way in which he could not stop it from happening. And it's good that you see his perspective as opposed to a conversation with his parents where it's like, Mike, it's not your fault. He got kidnapped. We don't know what happened. Don't blame yourself. And
he's
you
the one that got kidnapped.
Yeah, exactly. Or what was it? The Stand By Me, where Gordy makes that comment about how his dad says that he wishes it was him who had died, not his brother.
Mm-hmm.
And other moments where you get that moment where they have that interaction with a parent and they have this abuse that's thrown on top of the trauma that they're already suffering from. So now they have to process all of this. But I thought it was a good way to add something to this film, or add something to this series, to where it's I'm gonna try and fix this myself. I'm gonna go in my dreams and try and search for an answer. And even the idea of him using the sleeping pills, to me it was like the sleeping pills were for him to stay in a deep sleep, not because he couldn't sleep, but because he needed to sleep in order to figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he needs to stay asleep. Yeah. I'm disappointed in these parents. They already put him in charge of a kid once. That kid got kidnapped. So what do? They put him in charge of the little girl. What is wrong with these parents?
They believe in second chances, James.
He does say that like his mother dies and like his father like drinks himself into oblivion. So I don't know if they really entrusted him with his sister, or he just kind of like, all right, I'm getting out of here.
Dad's still alive. He's in the basement. We just don't see him all movie.
No, he was in the other animatronic that you don't see.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
He was hiding.
Okay, I really want to know this. So like we're all aware there's 4 animatronics there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was 5 kids.
Yeah.
Right.
And then that 5th kid just shows up inside of the Golden Freddy costume, right? No real we don't know where he came from, what he did. We know that he's physical because he took the taxi. But right. Just quick, like what the hell is that? I understand, like in the movie or in the video game, like Golden Freddy is supposed to be like I don't know. It's supposed to be like a standalone ghost. It has some kind of special powers or something. But like,
oh wow,
for the plot of the movie, using like this whole new like story to carry the lore that's in there. That one is just so like strange to me. It's so lost. It's like nothing really kind of explained or brought about who this 5th kid is.
No, I'm glad that you said that, because I thought it was me, and I couldn't decide if like I phased out at some point, or if like you were supposed to know the lore for this to make sense, because sometimes movies do that, and so I'm glad that it didn't make sense to you either. What about you, Don? Do you have some super insight from your daughter for us?
My kid's impression of that. She didn't
Sweet.
care.
You know
all
what?
that mattered was Golden Freddy showed up. Her eyes lit up when Golden Freddy was on the screen. She was like, it was almost as if it were me, what would have come out of my mouth was, oh shit, it's about to get real. But she saw Golden Freddy. She's like, oh, they put Golden Freddy in this one. Oh my God. Oh, and so she sat there and didn't do anything and just watched and then laughed, of course, when the taxi descended due to his weight. But she was just like, this is the turning point. We're going to see something really interesting, but not. We're going to see some interesting twist, or we're going to get some revelation with this. And she was like, this is going to be cool.
You know,
and
what?
unfortunately, she made the comment that she would probably be willing to become one of the animatronics.
Jeez,
man,
what were you gonna say?
Man, we're not the target audience. I think is the big problem here. We're not who this movie was made for.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of fun in itself. Like, there's so many movies that meant the world to me, and now, like, if my kids go watch them, like, if you pull up, I don't know, let's say Friday the 13th, Part 3, the first one I ever saw, the one that gave me my love of Jason because I was like 7, right? And if my kids tried to watch that today, they would be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And it would lose something without the 3D aspects, just all of that shit, right? Mm-hmm. And all I can say is that this is not a movie for my kids. It's a movie for that time, and that you had to be there to fully end up the way I did, right? And I feel the same way with this. And I don't think it's bad that we're not the audience. I think if anything, it's kind of cool because I get to sort of see what these what the new generation is watching and what they're doing. And especially with this, there were just so many times that I was like, if I knew the lore, this would mean so much more to me. And it's made me kind of want to go look into it. So it might actually be doing the job it was meant to do.
Oh yeah, give you that taste.
Yeah.
Yeah. And give them the excitement that they're looking for. Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, because with Creepypasta, as far as like talking about the way in which you, to go back to leaving some of the details out so that the audience can kind of enjoy it by also using their imagination. It's that you get that aspect with a lot of these things. And I'll use historical films as I guess a bridge, where you have movies that are based off of true events. I tend to have a bone to pick with a lot of those movies, but the one thing a lot of them do is they spark an interest in those historical moments. So you have people go and say like, oh my God, I watched Guillory and I went and read about it. And I realized that this is actually what happened in this story. Or I saw Gone with the Wind and I just questioned like, who the hell would ever write some bullshit like this or make this movie? Oh my God, this was horrible. Sorry, I hate Gone with the Wind with a passion. Or Django, because there was a robust discussion about 1850s America because of Quentin Tarantino's presentation of it. And the hill that I will die on at a conference, at a convention, is that a movie like Django is more historically accurate and more socially, culturally, and political relevant than something like Gone with the Wind, because it started those discussions about, was this the way it was? Here's some things you can read to understand a little bit more. Here's, Tarantino being Tarantino, because there was a foot scene as usual. Here's Tarantino being Tarantino. But those of you who aren't really Tarantino people, if you like Westerns or if you like historically based films, I can get you into liking some of my other stuff, but I can also get you interested into whatever this period was. So you can, consult. I'm sorry. You can seek out people to teach you more about the topic, about the subject, about the issues, and I think it's good. I mean, I honestly looked at the the encyclopedia my daughter has on the coffee table, and I wanted to look up the contraption, as James has already pointed out, how many times this is like Saw, the contraption that Abby was going to be put in, because I remember.
I want more of that.
No,
Oh, you're going to get it, because
I wanted to know what that thing was they were trying to put onto to Mike's face. Like, that's something I've never seen before.
Continue, Don. Sorry.
I was just thinking that it was the inside of, I guess, one of the animatronics to kill him, because I'm assuming that's how they got a lot of the kids, or I should say the 5 kids, was by slicing and dicing and pureeing them and putting their bodies in there. Well, I got to ask this question of both of you. Creepypasta, how old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay. I don't remember if this was around for your child. I don't think it was, but did you ever go to a Showbiz Pizza?
Showbiz, no. I've went to Chuck E. Cheese plenty of times, but Showbiz was not in where I was at.
Okay. Because, I mean, you know this from playing the game. I mean, it's loosely based off of those characters from Showbiz Pizza. And of course, when Chuck E. Cheese bought it, you had the bands, the animatronics. But James, did you ever go to a Showbiz?
Hang on. Really fast, weird fact. You can look this up. This is true. Showbiz bought Chucky.
Yeah.
But Chucky.
I'm sorry.
But Chucky was a more marketable, for whatever reason. I don't fully know the story, but Showbiz bought them and then used their name, and I find that fascinating because that almost never happens.
It's strange. Like, how could they afford to buy them if they're considered to be a less marketable brand? It's weird.
Right? None of it makes sense to me. But yes, I lived at Showbiz. I had like 4 birthdays in a row there because, that's what you did, right? And, Mr. Creepypasta, you said a little bit ago, like, we're not the audience for this. And I think it's interesting because I have an experience that's real that plays into this film that most of these kids who love it probably wouldn't have. I know there's still Chucky, but like, I feel like it's really not as popular as it was, right? And I was at a Showbiz, and they were always kind of creepy, right? But it was fun. And so you're with your friends and blah, 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 blah. Well, I had to go to the restroom. And when I went to the bathroom and I went in there, it's not Chuck E. Cheese because it was Showbiz. So whatever the mouse's name was, the guy who was dressed up as the mouse was fucking in there. And I was terrified because I was alone with him and it was no longer funny and he was creepy. And, like I was probably like 9, like that age where like, I know it's a guy in a suit, but do I? You know what I mean? And, and that stuck with me so much. And when I was watching this, I realized I was really into like the animatronics roaming around and like where they would like suddenly look at somebody or that sort of thing. And I think that's why. I think it's that moment. So I don't know if that plays into your question, Don, but I find it fascinating that I have this real moment that these kids will never have.
I just went to go do a deep dive into the... Yes, this is all a dream, James. I went back because I couldn't remember anybody, because for some reason I thought the bear's name was Showbiz Bear. It's Billy Bob.
Yeah.
And then the female mouse is Mitzi Mozzarella.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But yes, she is. I distinctly remember going to a Showbiz Pizza when I was living in Colorado as a kid. Somebody's birthday party or like an after soccer pizza party or something like that. And even as a kid, I just thought it was creepy. And you also had during this time period, oh my God, I forgot the Poltergeist. You had movies like Poltergeist that had come out. And I remember, just like it was yesterday, I seriously thought my stuffed animals in my room were going to move. They were going to look at me. They were going to do something. So every time I saw the animatronics in this movie, that was what I thought about was, I had a stuffed bear or a dog or something across the room. And I'm just pulling my covers up and then squinting my eyes a little bit to pretend like I'm sleeping to see if one of them is going to move, if their eyes are going to move or something. because those things were so creepy. And the genius of this movie is the way they're able to capture how creepy animatronics and mascots are. Because we know, I mean, not for the animatronic, but we know there's a person inside the mascot costume. We know this is a robot, or we hope there is. We know that this is a robotic thing, right? But the fact that we can't, and it's also the same thing with like clowns, because you can't see a real face, it's scary. It's a little bit disturbing. It makes you a little bit anxious. So every time those eyes were moving across on the screen, that gave me pause. No pun intended.
I will say, like, so Five Nights at Freddy's, like, in general, like the film, as well as like just the franchise, has done a lot of that, like pointing out how scary animatronics are. And you know, like you guys had mentioned, Showbiz Pizza's gone, but Chuck E. Cheese is still around.
Mm-hmm.
But Chuck E. Cheese has gotten rid of their animatronics, and I met up with like this group who does like restorations for the animatronics from Chuck E. Cheese, which is like a really cool experience, seeing how the actual ones work off of like the air compressors and stuff. But they were
nice.
They let me know like why they got rid of them was because like games like Five Nights at Freddy's are like movies that really kind of feed into how scary animatronics are. Because like I suppose like when I was a kid, I never thought it was scary. Like if I saw Chuck E. Cheese, I didn't think it was scary. Like this is just as a big cartoon character there on stage, doing songs and dance, you know. But kids are a lot more aware of this, especially now that these like games are out. And when they would see these animatronics come out, they just scream. Like they were terrified of these kind of things being there on stage. And it could be because of Five Nights, or it just took advantage of the fact that that's just the way that people perceive them now. But like animatronics are just going wayside entirely. Like unless you're doing stuff like Disney's doing with like hyper realistic looking animatronics, like the Spider-Man thing that can fly around, like these kind of large ones that are these large cheap ones that they used to do for Showbiz, they used to do for Chuck E. Cheese. They're just gone. They don't exist.
Well, I mean, Disney does have at least one scary animatronic in Disney World at the Hall of Presidents.
Oh yeah. The Abraham Lincoln one?
Oh my.
No.
Oh.
There's video of kids.
Is it Howard Taft?
No. He was actually a nice person. But what's funny is like there are videos of people like with their kids with those animatronics when they start going. It freaks the kids out.
Oh yeah.
So and this is before Trump was added to Hall of Presidents. But they were like, this is so creepy. And I went to go see it. I think it was when Obama was still president. And it was creepy as an adult to watch that.
Everything's creepy to me.
Just living my life out there. Everything's creepy.
Maybe I could get an animatronic of me. That'd be fun.
You know, I'm sure you could. Put you in one of those like wax, the way they do like wax.
Oh man,
bouncy sod things.
Jeez. Oh, one scene that I really loved is towards the beginning, and it's when he's getting ice cream, and he thinks that kid's being kidnapped, and he runs after the dad and just tackles the living shit out of him into the fountain, and it just starts pounding him. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, I don't know, man. Even if this guy was kidnapping the kid, I feel like you're going to get in trouble and he's going to get away because you've gone too far. But then I thought that would like come up again. I thought like there'd be a point where he had to like it was like establishing that he could physically fight. And then he never does it again. And I thought that was so funny.
It was just to show you how fucked up he is, you know? I mean, most people would say, hey, stop.
He doesn't do that.
I
was like, wouldn't it be great if he tackled like Chica and then like hit her and broke his hand? Like, I think that would be really funny. But
like
or broke the facing of the animatronic a little bit, right?
Oh
and
yeah,
then you get those eyes to look at you again. But no, I before the dad showed up, I honestly thought because the security guard, he saw the kid and was thinking the kid was going to steal something, because it was he seemed like an overzealous. I shouldn't say overzealous because he seems he doesn't have enough confidence to be overzealous. But I saw him and he was looking at the kid. The kid was standing next to a kiosk. I'm like, this kid's gonna take something, and it's he's gonna lose his job because he's gonna push the kid down or he's gonna be too rough with him or something. And then we went up to 11 with beating the shit out of him. When he could have had his usual. He could have had his usual. He could have talked to the girl at the ice cream place, probably gotten a date, because she was laying hints out. She's like, hey, have you tried the raspberry swirl? You need to try this one. And then she turns around and he's gone, beating up a dad in a fountain.
Well, at least he didn't miss and tackle that kid, because geez.
That's another movie. Sir, I'm saving you from fatherhood.
Wow.
You're going to end up drinking like my dad did.
Does. He lives in the basement. But yeah, I just thought it was so fascinating that it never comes up again. And I kind of like that, but I also I kept expecting like he would just go like just full force on one of these animatronics and like you said, like rip his face open, pull his eyes out, something, and nope. I don't know. I just really wanted more kills though, so maybe I'm just making places where this movie could have been more violent. I don't know.
I think there's room for it. I mean, in the second or third movie, or however many they're able to make after this one, I could see it happening because Five Nights at Freddy's has a huge following, a very passionate following. I could see it happening, considering that you've got the streaming option on Peacock and it's in theaters. I don't think I saw the budget. I know the budget was relatively low. So I mean, it would garner at least someone to think about making a sequel for this one, which I say they should.
Oh yeah. They opened it up so well for a sequel. Like
totally.
The third video game, the Five Nights at Freddy's 3, the movie. I'm in. That's Freddy's 3, the movie.
Because I'm gonna miss this question, so I better go ahead and ask it now. I do not mean this with any disrespect to Elizabeth Lail, the actress. I don't mean it that way. But did either of you get the sense that the team or the casting team was like, well, we can't get Jennifer Lawrence. She looks and sounds just like her. Or was that just me?
I think it was just you. I don't know.
And maybe it's because of the Hunger Games, because Josh Hutcherson is in that too. And seeing the dynamic between he and Vanessa, I was thinking like, I think they were trying to get some of those fans as well, because you got him and you got this actress that resembles Jennifer Lawrence. For me, you guys don't agree.
Interesting. I don't know. I hadn't thought about it. I think I don't know. For me, it was just somebody who kind of resembles Vanessa from the games. I don't know. Blonde chick. Put her in the cop uniform and call it a day. I don't know.
I've seriously, because again, I didn't play the games. I played a little bit, but then I spent more time watching my daughter play and then watching her watch the playthroughs online. Because they had changed Vanessa's, I guess, story, where she's now the daughter of William Often. I was also starting to think like, maybe since Abby can see these kids, her invisible friends, right? She can see these kids that are dead, and she knows what happened to them. From having these conversations, knows who they are and things like that. I started to think that maybe Vanessa was one of those, I'm sorry, was a ghost, was a dead person. Because I didn't see her really interacting with anybody for a while. And then when it's finally done, I'm like, oh, well, she was a real person, or she is a real person. She's not a figment of Mike's imagination. She's not a dead person, anything like that, because it started to strike me that there was something hidden about her, and it wasn't like who her father was. It was like maybe she's gonna be involved somehow if they're changing a couple of things from the games.
Knowing nothing about it going in, I was just like thinking either the little blonde girl was like her sister, right? Like that could happen. Or I just got super strong Silent Hill vibes from it. So I was kind of going that route, and I was like, she's the evil one, like, I don't know. It felt that way to me because she shows up out of nowhere, and she's a cop who's blonde. So just very Silent Hill for me.
I mean,
I was worried she was going to ask, Mike to become a cop.
You've been a really shitty security guard. You should try being a cop. Says here you have aggression problems. All right, I'll stop.
You attack somebody without asking any questions. Chief of police.
So yeah, I didn't have my usual luxury of spoilers going into this because just reading the games wasn't the same because they can change anything. So yeah, I kept thinking she was related to the little blonde girl that was one of the kids.
Which was a cool thing too, but
yeah. So my major source of contention with this movie is just one piece, and I just want to know: did I phase out and miss it, or is this hilarious? Like, he has this friend Sam or Max, who comes and like, hangs out with his sister and watches her when he's at work and all this stuff. And then Max goes missing and gets killed. And I don't remember a point where anybody's ever like, hey, where's Max? Like, it was just like, I guess she's not coming over anymore. Like, did I miss something, or is this like some weird?
The only thing I got was, it must have been because they'd already had that conversation about like, yeah, I'll pay you. Don't worry, I'll pay you. I'll pay you when I get the money, right? So it's been obvious that she's been watching Abby for a while without getting paid. I just took it as, until he sees her, her remains. I took it as, oh shit, she's not going to answer my phone calls because I haven't paid her. He's already gotten the eviction notice. He's already got, he's having all types of money problems. So I just took it as, I've got things I need to take care of. I haven't paid people. She doesn't want to be around us because, why are you going to watch a kid for free?
I can see that, I guess.
I mean, that's the only thing I could think of.
My wife actually brought that up. Like, all the murders that took place, like, there was really no concern about them at all from anybody. Even when we found out later, like, Vanessa's kind of in on the whole thing, but like, when she shows up, she's like, hey, there was a break-in, not, hey, I cleaned up 4 piles of remains inside of the restaurant.
And I moved the car.
Yeah. And it
there's been a break-in at hours you weren't supposed to be there. It's so odd. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, like, his aunt was also, like, I assume killed in the living room. And because we just see, like, her legs there. But, like, clean that up. I don't know if, like, Golden Freddy was, like, got down with, like, a scrub brush and cleaned out the floors or something before they took the taxi cab. But, like, nobody brings it up.
Yeah, it was just kind of odd to me. And I mean, I again, that goes back to who's your target audience, and the target audience does not give a shit about this.
True.
It's just me being whiny. But no, I just it was just really funny to me. It was like nobody cares where their friend is. It's very strange.
She's the only character I felt bad for when something, because it was clear that she didn't want to do any of this. Even with the stuff with the aunt, she was taken up for Mike. She's like, no, he's clean. He doesn't do anything. He just goes to work and sleeps. It was basically made clear that he's not doing anything illegal, anything inappropriate. And kind of like the attorney, because I love the attorney, the way that he responded to things, where it was, he was sitting there getting nervous. He's like, well, you know what? I shouldn't be here. Sit down. You guys are talking about illegal things. I shouldn't be here. Stay.
We could
And
kill
I'm
him.
sitting there like, oh my God, this is great. I'm glad that he has been relieved from any connection to any of the stuff that is going on.
He gets to just move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured it was all just who gives a shit with this plot, but I don't know. It was just one of those things I found funny that no one cared.
Maybe nobody liked her. That's probably what it was.
Sad day.
No, I mean, no.
The aunt.
Oh my God.
All of them. No.
I'm talking about Aunt Jan. Like, it's obvious that nobody, she wasn't well liked.
Man.
And she smells like cigarettes.
It was the second act of it became oddly wholesome.
Okay.
And, it felt really out of place compared to like the way we get in the beginning is like this really kind of like we get the idea of the end product like really intense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that giant saw going towards the last security guard. They're wandering around. They bit a woman in half. They're really, really intense. And then when the kid shows up, it becomes this really kind of like feel good moment where they make that not pillow fort, like the table fort.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And like again, I assume this is because this is targeting the audience that just like enjoys Five Nights at Freddy's. As a kid, this is probably something I would want to do if I was at the Five Nights at Freddy's thing. I'd want to hang out with these guys. These guys are cool. But like, I don't know, from my perspective watching it, it felt so strange to just suddenly see like these super violent robots, and then they're like, oh, well, they're just kids, and they're enjoying their kid time.
Yeah, and they're helping put the fort together.
Yeah.
See, and this is a place where I would like more violence. I would like one of them to not be there and like somebody's doing something and you see that one just like slaughter the living shit out of somebody, but then like come in with like a bunch of Coke bottles and hand them to everybody and like lay down and join the party like nothing just happened. I don't know. That's the kind of
work better. I think that juxtaposition there would be really interesting to see. Like, because then you're still aware these things are killer robots. They're not just her friends.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think that would also be really funny to that audience, like I think that's the kind of stuff they love and the kind of stuff we love. And I feel like those were the moments that were missing from this for me. I just wanted more weird ass shit like that happening. So yeah,
That's understandable.
But yeah, it did feel really weird when they were all just nice. And as weird as it is, I actually really liked the drawing aspect and how like just crossing people off. Like when Abby gets mad at Mike and starts crossing him out of drawings, like there was legitimate, like, I don't want to say like super tension, but you were like, ah, shit, like, I don't know. It was well done for what a weird level of terror that it is. It's just crossing somebody out of drawings, but we're aware that the drawings mean something to them. And then it's a great way to set up the end as well. So I thought the drawings were a really fun way to do it. I don't know if they're in the games, but yeah, I thought it was great.
I mean, it's a great way to connect different generations, because even for, as old and decrepit as all three of us are, we all understand what the crossing out means, because that's what you did in a yearbook with a friend of yours. A former friend of yours. You would cross out their picture or write something mean on them, or draw horns and knock out some teeth or whatever it is, right?
My girlfriends and I made a burn book. Yes. Continue.
But that's also something that the kids themselves would understand now, as far as like, I don't like this person. I don't want to see their face. Like, rip up the picture, black it out, whatever you're going to do, put it in a shredder, because I don't like it. I mean, I don't like this person.
Yeah.
And you get the therapist early on who's like, talking about how children communicate better through like art and stuff.
Right.
And it's literally Abby communicating with other children, So I thought that was just such a great way to go about it. And also it's such a good way to give the child power without like, forcing it.
Making it magical.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was just a really cool thing to add.
Yeah,
but what do I know?
No, you're right, because it's Mike that they kind of give this magical ability to. I don't know why I just did air quotes. We're not on video, but Mike is the one who gets this
None of us
magical
would have
ability,
known.
right? Well, I had to admit that I did it. He gets this magical ability where it's like, oh, well, I can, determine what's going to happen in the dream as far as like seeing things and seeing all the details and talking to these kids, because that's the only time he interacts with them is when he's in his dreams or in a dream state. So he can understand what their needs are, what their concerns are. Whereas you have Abby that has a closer connection to him, being a kid, being more open to whatever else is around her, but also in a sense of being selected because those beings want her to join them. And I'll be honest, just going to be honest here. She probably would have been better off being one of the animatronics, considering how things were before everything goes to shit, as far as, finding out about William Often and things like that, because she would have had friends. She would have had people she could have talked to, because until you get to the end of the movie, you don't see her interact with any other real children.
Yeah.
And you've got a broken person trying to fix another broken person.
What were you going to say, Mr. Creepypasta?
I don't know if it's better off, but I do see a point there. I don't know. You saw what happened to Afton after that suit closed in on him. I don't know if the kid would have wanted that to happen.
It's just painful for a little bit, and then everything's fine.
Yeah, I didn't seem that way, considering he had like a credit bit there of him just moaning in pain.
It's probably just painful for the adults, okay?
Yeah. Seeing him show up with like that voice mod on him, doing a laugh and knocking Mike around, that looked badass as hell. I love that.
Yeah. He was sweet. You were talking about the dreams and the kids being in them, and it almost gave me a Stephen King kind of vibe, like these creepy children in the woods, right? Like, I don't know, it really pulled just kind of a 80s nostalgia horror moment for me, and I thought it was cool how that in itself has become, nostalgic, but also like timeless. Okay. And I really love this kid that they got to be the creepy little blonde-headed kid. Like, I want him to be like the new, I don't know, like do like a new Good Son and put him in it. Like his little facial expressions, I was like, I hate this kid and I love him. Let's put him in everything. I don't know. But I love how they use Mike and make him basically hand over Abby without meaning to. He just has this moment where he picks, and I was very disappointed in him for making that choice. But I also like how it's total kid logic. Like, you said yes once, so that's how it is. There's no going back. It's like, oh no, you fucked up and said we could have ice cream on Friday. We have to get ice cream on Friday. It's like that same level. And I find that so fun because, like, these are true consequences in someone's life, but it's like that same level of like a pinky promise,
Oh, you just brought up something from this past week. I was supposed to do a lecture for some community group. They canceled it. So, but before I was like, kid, you need to get ready for bed because I've got to go on Zoom at 7, and I won't be able to put you to bed. So I need you to go ahead and start getting ready now. She sees me because I come back up like 7:15 to check on her. She's like, I thought you had a thing. I was like, no, it got canceled. I'm like, but you should be in bed. She's like, well, you didn't tell me it got canceled. I'm like, it got canceled like 5 minutes before it started. It's like, well, I just thought you might have lied to me. And I was sitting there, I was like, oh my God. That is very true, James. You told me this is the way it's going to be. This is the way it has to be from now on. You can't change it. It doesn't matter if I got in trouble at school. Doesn't matter what you said we were going to have ice cream. When I got home, I'm going to get ice cream.
Yeah, and it's just that same level when it's somebody's fucking life, like it's nope, you said we could have her, too bad. I love that.
God, that Aunt Jan.
You and Aunt Jan.
No, but the thing is, like, you've got this possession that's taken place, possession in many different ways, but the possession of the devices, as far as animatronics, by those by the children that were, or I'm sorry, the children's ghosts. But then you also have the custody, as far as that form of possession, where really Abby, you have so many people trying to play games with Abby's life. Or there's this tug of war as far as where she's going to go and where she belongs. And I think that's one of those things I didn't think about until, we were having this conversation about how the aunt wants her. Mike definitely wants to keep her. That's his sister. He should, he feels he has an obligation to take care of her, and definitely feels a higher sense of an obligation because of his brother being abducted.
Also feels that he shouldn't have her at the same time. Right.
Yeah. And that idea of what can we do? So it's scary to think about, when you're a kid, you're not thinking about how close you could come to being, I don't know, somebody else's liability. And that's kind of the presentation she gave me was, she seems like a happy kid. Everything's great, but it's almost as if everybody else is treating her as a thing.
Well, I mean, she has as much choice in her future as her brother Garrett did. Right? Like, he didn't get to choose to be kidnapped and hauled off, and nobody asks her what she wants. She doesn't get to pick if she's going with the aunt or staying with her brother or whatever else.
Or becoming an animatronic. Yeah, that's a good point.
Or becoming an animatronic. Yeah. Well, I mean, in fairness, it seems like that's the one she's picking until she finds out how it works.
Exactly.
That's how I am with stuff too. Yeah, let's do this. Oh shit, no.
Yeah, I've changed my mind. The whole pointy thing's going into my ribs, and no.
It's me every time I get a tattoo. Oh.
I wrote down in my notes, it was like, this is the worst security guard ever. In reference to Mike.
Just consistently sleeping. He goes to work with the intention of sleeping.
Yes.
That makes him my hero. What are you talking about?
Well, this whole thing, it reminded me, we had this thing called Fire Watch and CQ duty, staff duty, when I was in the Army. So when you were in basic training, or if you're in the field, like you always have somebody who's supposed to be quote unquote on guard. And all their duties are simply, I'm just staying awake. So 12 o'clock, I've got to be up from 12 to 12:30. Then I go to the next person and say, hey, it's your turn. You need to stay up and watch. And the way it's taught is if you fall asleep, bad shit can happen. Like, it can happen to you. It can happen to people around you. And as I'm watching this, I was thinking, like, he's going to go to sleep. Bad shit is going to happen. Bad shit is going to happen. Now, he gets bad shit happening in his dreams, but he also has bad shit happening in the real world. But really, what got me with this was it immediately made me think about CQ's staff duty, which is different than the Fire Watch, because it's simply, you're on guard. You're up for 30 minutes and then you go back to sleep. If you're lucky, your fire guard is early in the night. So, everybody's supposed to be going to bed at like 8 o'clock. Your duty starts at 8:30, so you didn't go to bed and then get to this point where you're asleep and then you get woken up and then you have to be up. It sucks. But the other one, like I was saying, is CQ staff duty. It's a 24-hour shift. It's a 24-hour shift on the weekends.
I feel like your schedulers suck.
Yeah.
No, it's the Army, dude. That's the way they just like, we need 2 people that are going to be here for 24 hours. I was a champ for 24 hours because I watched movies I never saw before. I played video games, and I just counted the days until I was getting out of the Army. And that's what I saw with Mike's character, was like, how do I eat up this time? But then how do I also find a way to, I don't know, use this time to my benefit? And he used the time to his benefit by trying to work through his trauma. But again, it also is a testament to where we were, late 90s, early 2000s. I'm not even going to get into the 80s. The way that people talked about therapy, the way that people talked about getting some type of help, to where now you have apps, you have websites you can go to, you have resources in your communities where you can talk to people. And as long as you're not a danger to yourself or to someone else, you don't run the risk of, I'm going to, get locked up or anything. If I'm dealing with trauma, I can talk to somebody. If I'm dealing with some type of, issue I'm going through currently, I can talk to somebody who can give me the necessary steps to treat that condition, as opposed to self-medicating, which he's doing, and ignoring it. And I mean ignoring it as far as like not getting the appropriate help, not what has gone around for, I guess, as part of toxic masculinity, the whole idea of toughen up, you're a man, you're not supposed to deal with this. It's suck it up and move on, as opposed to, here are some strategies to get your headspace right.
Yeah.
So that's my way of just telling everybody, get therapy, seek out some help if you need it.
Yeah, good message.
Just talk to Chat GPT. No, I'm just kidding.
It might give you some good advice.
Mike might not have even been the worst security guard if you just take his fucking earphones off. Like, you could go to sleep. If somebody breaks in, you'll probably hear it, but not if you have headphones or earbuds in. So I feel like that's, if you would have just made that little change, I'd give him more points.
Well, I mean, even with this job, right? The job is to keep people out. So you're not dealing with any people. Someone would have to actively break in to disturb Mike. And I mean, actively break it, like they've got to, pick the locks, break, knock through the glass, whatever. But he doesn't have to make any rounds. He can look at everything on those monitors that's taking place within this area that he needs to watch, that he needs to supervise. So it's, I don't know.
Good times.
But yeah, you don't have to deal with the public. That'd be...
No, that's any kind of good job, man. You don't have to deal with the public.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. I just don't like dealing with people in general, but in fairness, people don't really like dealing with me either. So it works out.
Now, the song that they are playing, or the song that you hear the animatronics playing pretty routinely. My daughter made a special request when we went to breakfast the other day. She asked my wife to put on the Five Nights at Freddy's soundtrack. And I'm sitting there like being the old codger. I'm like, I don't want to listen to this crap. And then, the Secrets That You Keep song comes on. I'm like, and I start singing along with it. She's like, Daddy, I thought you didn't like. I was like, what do you mean? This is a song from when I was a kid. And I looked up, it was one of the songs that was listed on the soundtrack. So when it starts playing in the movie, I start doing the same thing. I start singing along with it. I'm like, yeah, this is funny. And I immediately thought of what song or songs would you want those animatronics to play? Like if it was just animatronics, they're not killer robots that are possessed, anything like that. What songs would you play?
Yeah, you want them to be killer robots for the...
Yeah.
Okay, killer robots.
Woohoo! I have no idea.
Okay, here's the more appropriate question. James, did you ever have a Teddy Ruxpin?
I did not, but my cousin did. And
you changed the tape, didn't you?
Of course we did. Yeah. Guns N' Roses, Aerosmith. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and that's really what prompted it, because I remember I had a cousin who had one, and that's what we did. We just put different tapes in it, and it was just funny to us just to see the mouth and eyes moving. I can't remember if any other parts like the ears or something moved also, but I just remember it being so funny playing that. Or Pound Puppies had a similar animatronic. It was oh, you remember Pound Puppies?
Oh yeah.
They had a similar animatronic that my brother had, and I took the same thing. I would take tapes out and I would put them in there because I'm like, this is going to be hilarious. And you would see this dog singing, just, I don't know, like Prince or Michael Jackson or Madonna or what. And it was just the funniest thing to me as a kid. So
I'd like them to sing Helter Skelter, but the Motley Crue version instead of the Beatles version.
All right, Creepypasta, you're up.
I don't know. This is like the furthest possible thing from my mind. What do I want to see the animatronics sing?
Nothing. He wants them to stay where the fuck they are.
I want them to move as if they're playing something, but it's nothing but just like whale sounds.
I love it. Oh man.
Well, now that I think about it, it would have been really interesting for him, Mike, to put in his white noise, his nature sounds tape on the audio track, and you could just see their reaction to it. He probably wouldn't have made it out of the movie.
I think it'd be pretty creepy if they were chasing me and singing like Miley's Flowers or like some Taylor Swift song. That would also be very creepy.
Look what you made me do. Would that be it, James?
No, that's a Conjuring reference. Just kidding. I've totally ruined that part of The Conjuring now. All I see is Taylor Swift yelling, "Look what you made me do!" Anyway, I think we've exhausted this, so we should go to Movie Rex.
You know, did you like the movie? Is a good thing. Did you enjoy it?
Oh boy,
I did.
How can I put this? This is nothing against the movie itself. I wanted it to be more like Willy's Wonderland, and I just fucking love Willy's Wonderland. And I don't know if you've seen it or not, Spike, but like it feels like somebody wrote a Five Nights movie, couldn't get the rights, and so they made Willy's Wonderland, right? Like, and so I've been joking since this was announced. I was like, well, why would they do that? Is Cage coming back for it? You know, and I love it so much that this didn't live up to that for me. But with that said, when I look at it from like my kids going to it, I know they're going to have a fucking blast. And in that way, I feel differently about it. Like it doesn't live up to what I wanted, but like you said, I'm not the audience. So I had a ton of fun with the kill scenes. I thought they were great. I wanted so much more of that. And I loved the creepiness of them walking through the halls and that kind of shit. But it dropped off for me during that act you were talking about where they're building a fort and that kind of stuff. And so I didn't dislike it. This is a really long way to say it was okay. It wasn't what I expected going in. I thought there would be way more kills and that kind of stuff. But it was good. Like when I rewatch it, I think I'll have more fun with it because I know what level to expect this time, you know? Plus, like I said, I'm gonna go watch true fans enjoy the shit out of this.
I think you're gonna get a real kick out of it because there have been movies that I wasn't a fan. Like I probably haven't watched since I saw them in the movie theater. Because I didn't feel the need to watch them because the experience of the movie theater was so good. Like the one that you often reference, James. The experience was so good in the movie theater. I know I'm not going to get that if I watch the movie again at home.
What movie?
Was it?
It was Insidious 3.
It's Insidious 3. I was about to say Conjuring, but it was an okay movie, but the crowd
They were amazing.
Talking back to the
Like,
screen, laughing, cutting jokes, like
That, yeah, I feel it. I absolutely feel it.
when I go see this, I'm hoping that the kids have no respect for being quiet in the theater, because I want to just hear what they think in the moment, and I want to live in that glory. So I think I'm gonna really like the reshowing. I hope. If I go and all the kids are silent, I'm gonna be so mad. But what about you guys? Did you like it, Spike?
I liked it, yeah. But then again, like, I always have to hear from other people because I'm told by many, many people my opinions are terrible. So I need to know, like, is it just me because I enjoy bad things, or is it something that other people like genuinely like too?
I mean, one of my favorite movies of all time is Anna and the Apocalypse, so nobody listens to me anymore. So they're like, zombie musical Christmas movie. What the fuck? You know? So
I honestly thought about that movie when I was driving yesterday.
as you should. You probably heard me blasting the soundtrack at my house. Anyway, yeah. So normally we do movie recs, and we can still do that too. But I actually wanted to hit. You're both gamers. I'm not. So
Ooh.
my answer would be Animal Crossing. But if people like playing this game, like, what are other horror games that people should be checking out, or what would they like if they liked this, or just what's your favorite ever and you want them to go play it?
Oh, I would say, oh, that's a god damn you, James.
Very different.
I'm gonna let you go because I've got like 10 I'm thinking of, and I'm like, no, if I talk about one, I'm gonna talk about all of them.
Same. That's such a broad question, because the games that I can suggest are not like Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah.
I don't.
And I don't even think that matters. Just if they're into horror and video games, like just anything.
If you're into horror and video games, check out The Mortuary's Assistant. If you haven't played it, it's pretty simple, working a job kind of thing, like Five Nights at Freddy's, but the scares in it are just golden. They're amazingly fun. It just takes such a simple concept of doing like simple mortuary work, but the atmosphere is great. The acting in it's great. It has a hidden story that you have to unlock, a lot like Five Nights at Freddy's. I think it's probably one of the best games to come out in the past couple of years.
Okay. Nice. All right. I'm going to go with one that I would probably say very underrated or underappreciated. And that was Until Dawn. Ooh. And it's a horror decision-based game. So if you think about, how the choose your own adventures were, whatever decisions you make are going to affect stuff throughout the game. And it's basically a bunch of friends that go out to the woods, they go to a cabin, and shit starts happening. And you think you're going one direction with the film, I guess. You think you're going one direction with the way this film is playing out, the way this game is playing out, and then you realize it's going in a different direction because you get to play every character unless you make a decision that kills somebody. And if one of your characters, I think out of the 5 or 6 or whatever it is that you have, if one of them dies, it affects the other ones. But then there's also this thing of suspecting the other person of possibly being a murderer and all. It's, God, I'm going to have to go replay it. I haven't played it in years, but Until Dawn would be one. And I would be remiss if I did not include this. And that would be the original Resident Evil when it first came out. Because the producers of that game, the designers of that game were way ahead of their time as far as being able to use sound and surround sound to really mess with you. You would hear the zombies clicking through the doors. The dogs coming after you. The decision making that you had to go through. This is another episode altogether.
Oh, dude, I was like, I'm gonna come up. Did you play The Quarry yet? This is the sequel.
I've got it. I've got it downloaded, and I've got to have like a little space of time to play it, like where there's nobody in the house. I don't have anything. I'm writing, no projects. It is sitting there right in my library. Well, not even in my library, in the bar on my PlayStation of the games that are fully loaded onto to play, as opposed to in your library. You have to re-download them for some reason. I mean, for disk space.
Good. I liked that one too. Like they had a lot of like sequel games that were not great, but I think they really hit it again with the Quarry.
Okay.
And then they are remaking Until Dawn, by the way. I don't know if you heard about that, but they are not remaking it, they are re-releasing it.
Don't tell me that.
And also, you know, if you've played it, you know there's two characters in particular that has a plot shield.
Okay.
They do not anymore.
Okay. Okay. Well, I know one of them had a plot shield because you know, she has a very big name.
Yeah.
It's like the joke in what was it? In The Blackening, at the beginning of The Blackening, where they make the joke about, yeah, you know, they killed Jada Pinkett and Omar Epps in the beginning of that movie because they were too expensive. And then the two characters that are in this movie are the most expensive ones in the film. They're like, yeah, that's why they had to kill them off. They couldn't afford them in the budget.
Can't afford the extra day.
Exactly.
The games I'm going to throw out are The Seventh Guest, Phantasmagoria, and Silent Hill 2 because I'm ancient, and Leisure Suit Larry 4 just because. Greatest game ever made. Make sure you get a copy of Leisure Suit Larry 4.
I swear to God, I think you and I are the only ones who've ever played Leisure Suit Larry games.
There's like a new-ish one.
There is no 4. It wasn't made.
No, what?
Yeah, it's a joke in the series. There's 1 through 3, and there's 5, and they never made 4. And I have this ongoing desire to hold a panel at a con, like a retrospective of Leisure Suit Larry 4, and just because I would want to know who would show up to that panel. Like, you're not coming to that panel if you don't know. So what are you expecting when you get there?
Wait, why isn't there a 4 there?
There's no 4. Anyway,
why?
Because Leisure Suit Larry doesn't believe in foreplay.
Nice. That's so terrible and fantastic all at once.
It's awful.
I'm so sorry I brought this up. But no, legitimately, you know, I look back at like The Seventh Guest and Phantasmagoria, and obviously these games are so outdated today. But man, they totally continued my push into horror and where I am now. And I love that there's so many options that are doorways for people now, you know, and video games make you watch movies and make you read books and make you whatever. And I love how all of it works together and how there's so much access now. And I don't know. I love what we're capable of doing with everything. It's so cool. All right, I suppose we'll do actual movie recs if you want. I'm just going to go first because my double feature is so incredibly obvious. I'm going with Willy's Wonderland. I actually did watch them back to back. I loved Willy's all over again. So there you go. All right. Spike, do you have any movie recommendations for people that liked this movie?
Oh, that liked this one?
Well, just in general, you know.
Yeah, I have that prepared. The Creepypasta movie available now on Screambox.tv.
And it was the number one movie there for months.
Yeah. Not actually. No, I don't think that's a very good movie if you like this one. I don't know. I feel like this is introductory horror. I could say Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and that feels ingrained with it.
Well, there goes one of mine.
Keep doing it. Just try to knock off all his movies. Gremlins.
I literally had that like in the middle of the list.
Beetlejuice. All right, Don. What are your 842 movies?
Oh, righty. All right. We mentioned Nightmare on Elm Street. I believe we did. Goosebumps, a beloved classic. And since you know this movie is about nostalgia or has this nostalgia connection, I got another one. Short Circuit. Then you've also got Hook, because you know it's about some weirdo. Speaking of Peter Pan, some weirdo who's into killing children. Lights Out, Jurassic Park, Megan, It. How come I can't read my own writing? Black Phone, Banana Splits, which is pretty close to this movie.
Oh yeah, that's definitely
the entire Child's Play series. Candyman, Jaws, Children of the Corn, because we saw somebody who reminded me of
Because of Nebraska.
yes. And then of course I'm going to throw on Avatar just because.
Oh man.
The last,
and then last but not least, the Saw series, including Spiral and whichever one that he really doesn't like. Was it Saw 5?
I love Saw 5. Saw 5's my favorite. We don't talk
Was
about
it
the
Saw
final
6?
chapter. 7.
Final chapter, that's the one. Yeah, the one I got like 15
final
minutes
chapter,
into, and I was like, I'm done.
It's a movie that's so terrible they couldn't decide on a title. Anyway, so let's get you out of here, Spike. You don't have to deal with us anymore. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you online? They can check out your channel, grab some books, whatever you want to talk about, man.
I'm Mr. Creepypasta. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Spotify. I tell scary stories, basically free audiobooks for you guys to be able to listen to. If you want non-free audiobooks, Tales from the Gas Station Volume 4 just dropped minutes ago online. So that's
Nice.
the end of that series. So you guys have 4 or 5 solid novels to be able to get through. And they're wonderful comedy horror, dark comedies.
Beautiful. All right. Well, I suppose that wraps it up for another week then. As always, I am James Sabata.
And I am still Don Guillory.
For now. And we will see you next week here at thenecronoma.com.